from Navy Pier in Chicago to the Superman statue in Metropolis and everything in between. We'll be hearing the stories from the troopers in their own words. The who, why, and what led them to the Illinois State Police and what they've experienced since then. Without further ado, this is Peek Beneath the Peak with your host, Chief Public Information Officer Beth Hunsdorfer and Southern Deputy PIO, Sergeant Joey Watson.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Sergeant Joey Watson with the Illinois State Police Public Information Office, and joining me is Chief Beth Hunsdorfer, also of the Public Information Office, and we're back for part 2 of Peek Beneath the Peak with Elbert Jennings. Elbert is with the Violent Crimes Unit, and I'm going to turn it over to Beth so that she can introduce him.
Elbert is the commander of the Violent Crimes Unit for Zone 6. He's an East St. Louis native, family man who's been a long time with the Illinois State Police, and he's going to talk to us today about his career, the progression of his career, and some of his experiences that he's had as an Illinois State Trooper.
You know, and start some of the early stages of this, when you get into some of the entry-level positions, dispatching is probably some of the paths that many people take, and that was actually
a stressful job.
And that was one of the ways that Elbert got into the field of law enforcement. So obviously, with dispatching can be pretty intense. Like, tell us a little bit about that, Elbert. I'm sure it was jumping at sometimes.
I will say dispatching is definitely a job that will keep you on your toes because you have a lot of things going on. As far as at the time we did emergency medical dispatch, where if someone called and say they broke a leg or something like that, you would guide them through emergency medical dispatch. You'll have your cards and you would kind of tell them what to do until the police got there.
Tell me about that. Did you tell me about like your most unusual medical call? You ever deliver a baby?
No, never delivered a baby, and I really cannot recall one that really stuck out to me as far as dispatching.
Did you enjoy the excitement of it? I mean, obviously it's a new world for you at this time, and you're learning about the career of law enforcement.
Yeah.
Did this kind of fuel that desire and that appeal? Because I mean, it is. You're the first person. You're the first contact that they deal with in the criminal justice system.
Yes. So I won't describe it as excitement. I would describe it more as you get the adrenaline dump, but it wasn't exciting. It was more of I was more nervous. I was more want to make sure I do the right thing because I knew that lives are in my hand, being the police officers, the firefighters, or EMTs, EMS, and things like that. So that's the part. But it wasn't, I can't really say it was exciting. Now, what was exciting to me was putting that uniform on as an auxiliary officer, going out to actually do the job as a police officer. And I remember when I was actually hired by Cahokia Police in June of 2000. And fortunately, I was placed number 1 on the hiring list, so I was very excited about that. And I actually went through the Municipal Police Academy June of 2000. And I remember leading up to that moment where I was like, wow, I'm going to get paid to do this. Something that I enjoy doing, I'm going to get paid to do this job. So it was a great time to work for Cahokia. I really enjoyed it.
It's probably an interesting time to work for Cahokia.
Very interesting time.
Cahokia was sort of, it's a very bifurcated as far as racially. Yes.
So it was 99 is when I started working there as a civilian. So I got to know the police officers, got to know a lot of the other people that worked for the city of Cahokia. So that made the transition to become a police officer much more welcoming. So I had already gained friends at the police department. I was the only minority there for about 3 of those years while working there. So that was exciting. Was able to take get to take your police car home at the time, and you can drive your car off duty. Your car sat in your driveway. So the community knew a police officer lived at this house. And there was a sense of respect as well as responsibility that came with that. And I welcomed them both and really enjoyed it. I really did enjoy that.
How do you think the community received you?
Very, very, very well. The community loved me. Yeah.
Do you have any stories to back that up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you know that?
Yes. Well, at the local gas stations, they were not used to seeing an African American male in a Cokia police uniform. So when they saw that, it was like, wow. And then, I welcome conversations, and I would talk to people, and then they would ask, hey, how did you get this job? Where are you from? Or how do they treat you? And different things like that. So it goes back into almost like things that we learn in school as far as community policing and things like that. You talk, you just have conversations with people, and you end up, some of those relationships that I've built there, they are still with me today. Even with, when it comes to doing a job as a police officer, knowing some of those kids that may have been challenging at the time and unfortunately have moved on and probably doing things that they shouldn't be doing. I had that relationship with them when they were much younger, so it makes them easy to talk to, or make them easier to talk with me, I guess I should say. So and not only bad, but there are good things. Being able to see kids grow from little kids, now they are doing things in the law enforcement field. It was great. I absolutely loved it. And there were challenges with being a minority officer there, and you would get the people that would be arrested and they would be mean, but those were the ones that were in a jail cell. Those were the ones that had done something wrong, and they were being held accountable. Had some very, very good conversations with police officers that had never really spent much time around African Americans. Learned some interesting things about them, as well as they learned some interesting things about us. But that's what makes a police department. That's what makes us a community, is when we are willing to sit down and talk and learn from one another. Another story that's kind of comical, but it also shows how cultures are different. Was having a conversation with now a very recently retired lieutenant, retired as a lieutenant at Cokia Police Department, and he was my sergeant when I was there. And we were going to, just different calls for service. I don't remember exactly what this particular call was, but before I go there, let me explain the little backstory. So we were having, my wife and I, we were was kind of becoming friends with him and his wife. So he said, hey, why don't we, you come over and we will fry some fish and we'll eat some mac and cheese or some potatoes or something like that with fish. I said, my wife is Tammy. I said, I'll have Tammy make some spaghetti. We eat fish with spaghetti. We don't eat mac and cheese and potatoes and things. He said, you do what? I said, yes, we eat fish with spaghetti. We don't eat mac and cheese with fish. He said, we don't do that. I said, well, I'm telling you, that's how we eat fish. Right. So after that, we went to a call for service. And like I said, I don't know what type of call it was, but we were there with an African-American young lady. And after we got done doing the police side of things, I said, ma'am, or he may have said it, what do you eat with your fish? Guess what she said? Spaghetti. So, of course, I just walked away, and I was like, told you we eat fish with spaghetti. So, anyway, it was just one of those things where, and he and I, we're good friends today. But it's just some of those kind of conversations that makes it all worth it. It kind of takes the seriousness out of doing the job, and you kind of get to know who you're working with, get to know the community. And then the person we were talking to, she appreciated it as well, because we got to explain to her why we were asking her that question that had nothing to do with why we were at her house.
Right.
So little things like that. But no, it was a great time working for Cokia.
You started out talking about how your career started in that community service-oriented perspective of law enforcement. And even to this day, I know out of your background, you're heavily involved with youth in the Team Illinois Youth Police Camp.
Yes.
Can you talk about how that plays into a continuation of how you started your career?
Yes.
And you're still using your role as an Illinois State Police officer to fulfill that duty?
Yes. Now, when you talk about Team Illinois Youth Police Camp and you talk about the children that are there, whether that be kids from the East St. Louis area or kids from more of your rural areas, such as Breeze or, Redbud, some of those towns. That age group is really the age group that is my goal to target when it comes to mentoring young kids. I remember when I was that age group, when I was 13 to 15 years old, and although I had positive influences in my life, I probably had 3 or 4 times more negative influences in my life. So that's a very intricate age to reach kids like that, because you got to know that although you're spending this much time with them, when they leave, those negative influences are going to be there. Especially no matter what community you're from, you're going to have people that are not going to do the right thing. And if me as being an adult, knowing or remembering where I was at when I was that age, not really knowing, and, growing up in the area I grew up in, not seeing very many positive role models when it comes to making a good career choice or making good choices, period. I have 2 brothers. I have 1 brother now. One is deceased, and he died as a result of a homicide that occurred in the Washington Park, East St. Louis area. And growing up in my household, in the area, it was like you're going to see things that were not right. I mean, getting off of the school bus, seeing crime scene tape, and you get home and you learn that one of the neighborhood kids that you may have played with a week or so before was located deceased in a vacant garage. Those are the realities of my life when I was a kid. So I think about that when I take on that responsibility to be a mentor at the youth police camp. And I like to take advantage of that time to talk with a lot of the kids that are there, to prevent that from happening to them, or to let them know, hey, you do have adults that look like you, that are from the same area you're from, that have done, the right thing in life. And it was my goal that they will take advantage of that, and they will capitalize off those relationships that they build at the youth camp, and they will call and talk with us. And when they're going through challenging moments, when they, are faced with, do I do this or do I do that? There are times where you do this as well as a lot of the other counselors, where you build relationships with these kids, and they may have a run-in with their parents and just need somebody to come get them, take them out to dinner, talk with them or something like that. There are times those things happen, and if it was not for the relationship you built with them, or wasn't for you taking time to volunteer at that camp, that kid potentially could have been put out the house, or could have got physical or something with the parent, but instead they just had a verbal disagreement. They say, hey, I'm going to call this officer because he helped me out or she helped me out with that, and they see if they can talk me through it. That's what I really, really enjoy about the youth camp. And I will admit there is a little bit of guilt there, because when I noticed that my younger brother was doing things that I thought he should not have been doing, or staying out longer than what he should have, that I didn't take on that responsibility, although we were only about 3 years apart, to speak to him and to try to get him to change, some of the things he was doing. So there is a little bit of regret there, where I sometimes, not so much anymore, but I used to blame. I don't really want to say blame myself, but I used to be like, I could have done more. I could have done more. I should have done more. So I kind of take that energy and channel that towards helping some of the young people now. Yeah.
So you mentioned being a leader in a team of people that investigate this. As a leader, obviously, you're in a seat to mentor those in your servitude, right?
Yes.
And so with you serving the community in this manner, how are you mentoring those below you to take your place, so that when you do retire, mm-hmm. you're going to have that continuation of this ideology, this desire to make an impact? How yes. are you molding those below you?
So it's basically, and here's a perfect example of that. It's through conversation. It's through coaching. It's through talking with them, and through experience. Actually going out I'm not, like I said, I don't do it as much now because my role is changing just a little bit, but going out to scenes and actually having them see what you're doing, and then when you're done, explaining to them. Perfect example. We go to a crime scene, and you have the police tape up, and a lot of times you see most of the police officers on one side of that tape at the crime scene, talking with one another, or evaluating things that are there. And then myself, I will stay there for a little bit, but for the most part, I go over to the other side of the tape. I'll go over to the community because they're sitting there watching the police officers work, and I start talking with the community. So agents have to see that, say that, okay, well, I've talked to you over here. I've talked to the police. I know what direction you all think we should go in. Let me go and talk with the community so they can maybe give us some direction to go in. And not only that, but I'm going to show, while I'm over there talking with them, I'm going to build a relationship with them as well. Because state police, we're in a unique position where we're not out there, like when I work with Cahokia, you're out there every day, patrolling those same neighborhoods every day. We're not there. We are a state agency, so we're not in East St. Louis every day per se. Like we had something that happened on the interstate this morning, so we're up in Madison County this morning working on the interstate. We may be back down, but we're not there for the day-to-day police work. So we have to build those relationships where we can. So community service is one of them. Getting involved with some of the organizations that's trying to do positive things for East St. Louis. That's a huge one to get involved in. But here's the other one that's more immediate and more hands-on, is at a crime scene. Go and talk with the neighborhood. Go and talk with some of the people that's showing up to crime scenes and build relationships with the old lady or elderly lady, I guess I should say, that may be that may remember the community when it was a very, very good community. And you say, hey, I'm Elbert. I give you a business card. I'm going to just slip it right here. You call me later, or go in your home, give me a call so we can talk about some things and to try to help. And those relationships help. They are huge. So that's how I mentor the young agents, more hands-on, showing them how we do what we do. And then ultimately, I mean, we're in an interview room, interrogation room, some people may call it right now. But ultimately, you want to get people from the community that may have done something wrong that they have to pay the price for. You have to get them to the point where they will come into a room like this and give you a legal confession of what they had done. Those relationships are built in the community. You have to get those relationships in the community where you will talk with the elderly lady that may have video surveillance. They may show you the bad person committing this crime. And because you built that relationship with that elderly person, now you have the bad person committing the crime. And once you get that bad person in the room, you let that bad person know, hey, you can or cannot talk with me. But I want to let you know I do have this, and it clearly show what you done. Now this is your chance to, so those are the things that helps. But that relationship is not built in this room. It's built outside of the room. And that's what's important for agents that work for state police, not only agents, but detectives that work for city police department, is to understand that community policing is the core of getting into an interview or an interrogation room. And being successful in that room is being a human being outside of this agency, doing things that normal people do, participating in the youth police camp, maybe volunteering at the shelter, finding a family and giving a family Christmas gifts that they can't afford them themselves. Those are the relationships that we as police officers have to build in order to be successful, in my opinion. That's what I believe.
I have two questions. You're working in the Cahokia Police Department in what, 2000?
Yes, ma'am.
Why the state police?
Well, I've always wanted to work so I worked for Cahokia Police Department from 2000 to 2006. 3 of those years were spent on patrol, and then the last 3 years were spent doing the detective work. While doing detective work, I joined Major Case Squad, and Major Case Squad, as we know, investigate murders in East St. Louis. Well, not East St. Louis, but in the Metro East area, some of Belleville departments like that. So I got to see what working homicides was like. Illinois State Police was always my dream job. I've always wanted to work for Illinois State Police. Once again, uncle that mid 80s. So I would have been 9, 10 years old, seeing him in that uniform, and the respect that Illinois State Police even get to this day when they go and making a traffic stop in the city, wearing the hat, uniform is always top notch. I've always favored Illinois State Police. Now, I will say this. I would not work for, and I'll say this repeatedly, I will never work for, well, at the time, a lot of police officers were leaving Cahokia, going to other cities. I love Cahokia Police Department. I would not have left Cahokia Police Department for another city. But Illinois State Police, yes, I would, and I'm very glad I did. I just enjoy it. I enjoy Illinois. Although only you wore the uniform and worked the road for about 3 years for state police. I enjoyed working the road for state police, but I really do believe my reason, my ordained reason for being the state police is doing what I do now. It's because it just seemed like it connects with me. Although it's challenging, I think it connects with who I am and what I do right now. So Illinois State Police is it for me. I should say the money. I will say that you make a nice amount of money. I enjoy that, of course. So, but even once, as I started this off, I talked about, doing police work for free, is what I done when I first started. Now we all know, and it's no secret, policing has changed, over the 20 years that I've been in law enforcement. It just seems as if people don't love the police like they used to, or they judge us off of some bad things that police officers have done throughout this country, and you get looped into that. But once again, they're going to loop you into that initially, and there's nothing that we really can do about that. When they see that you are the police because of what they've been fed by the TV screen, they're going to, or others that are around them, they're going to automatically judge you by what they are accustomed to seeing on TV or what's being repeated. So what we have to do as, this is what I do, and this is what I ask others to do. I'm one of the procedural justice instructors for state police as well. And one of the things that I talk a lot about in our class is getting past the uniform. Once they see you in your uniform, a lot of them are going to have their judgments. They're going to judge you right away. But once you have a conversation with them, once you can identify with them, that go away. And it go away to the point where, if I can use the example of getting into the interview room and they telling you their whole life story, including what they done wrong, that judgment is gone at that point. They forgot they talking to the state police. Then they're talking to another human being that, will tell them they have made mistakes as well. And that will get you what you need to, that'll get you what you need as an investigator to further your case. And that will have them at the point where they're going to be held accountable for the thing that they done wrong. So it's just a full circle. Hopefully that answers your question. It's a lot.
And is there a case that sticks with you? You don't have to give me the specifics, but something that you just...
Yeah. There are a lot of them that really stick with me, but if I had to pick one particular case that stick with me, it would be a case where I personally knew the parents of the deceased kid, and but being able to prove the person that killed their kid is very hard. It's still very hard. We're not at that point yet where we can actually prove it. I believe one day we're going to get there, but I think that would be the case that's sticking with me. When you asked me that question, that's what stood out to me right then and there, is that particular case. But when you're dealing with homicide, and you're dealing with a person taking the life of another without the authority to do so, all those cases at some point you're going to remember something about almost all of them. I mean, I've been to a great amount, a lot of scenes where dead bodies were there, and I can probably tell you a little bit about each one. So that would be that's the challenging part of working homicide investigations.
How many crime scenes? How many homicide scenes have you been on? Could you guess? Could you estimate?
Oh, I really can't. I would say I don't think I'm at 1,000, but I would easily say probably 500.
So when you're in your car and you're driving around East St. Louis, can you pick out particular places and go, that's where that happened and that's where that happened? So it's
Unfortunately, yes. Yes. Unfortunately, yes. Yep. And that's not a thing that I'm proud of, because that is my community. That is where I remember riding around as a kid. But when you ask me that direct question, no, you're absolutely right. You can go down streets and like, that's where that happened at. That's where this happened at. So yeah, not a good thing. Not anything to be proud of, but it's true. I'll say this, and I don't know, but I would love to have had the opportunity to have my kids grow up in the same neighborhood that I grew up in, went to the same grade school I went to. That just would have been huge to me to do. Unfortunately, I was not able to do that, and actually the grade school I went to is actually closed now. But just the neighborhood itself, I can't risk, my kids growing up in that environment that I survived. It would be tough. But there are people that I work with that they do get to enjoy that luxury. You understand what I'm saying? Where they get to, and that's one thing that I wish I could have. So hopefully my kids will have enjoyed their childhood neighborhood that they grew up in, and they would want to stay actually in that community and raise their family in that same community. But that's one thing that I wish I could do. So when I ride down those streets where there was a dead body here, a dead body there, and I even been on my street that I grew up on for a couple of different homicides, and where my parents still live in Washington Park, and just knowing that the agents that I work with and went on to say, hey, we just talked to your mom and dad. It's like, yeah, how they doing? Like, Elbert right down the street, So that is not, it is what it is. But I can't say that that's one of the things that I look forward to, is when I hear that the homicide is right on my parents' street or right on the street I grew up on. And unfortunately, there are. This was when I was in Cahokia, a person I graduated high school with and hung out with in high school, where I was one of the officers that was there when his body was found as a result of a homicide. So those things they don't go away. They don't leave your mind. They don't. That's one of the things that will be with you forever as a homicide investigator. So what we do, and what I do, and what this agency is actually even more becoming more in tune with it and more aware of it, is helping officers get through difficult times that they may be facing with their careers. And I'm very thankful that we have an agency that recognizes that. But the one thing that I've always done is value my relationship with God, and knowing that this is just one aspect of a life that this happens. But you have to, me personally, I build my life with things outside of work, and think about looking at the big picture of it, looking at, this is my responsibility, this is my calling to do this. But outside of this, I'm still a father. I'm still a husband. I am a minister in the church. I have other things that I do that help build me, where the job won't tear you down. So you have to keep your mind working in other areas.
So this is like a keeps you sane.
Exactly.
Keeps you
Grounded.
grounded.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. And one of the other responsibilities I have with the state police and that I'm very honored to do is the chaplain program coordinator, where I coordinate the efforts of our chaplains with the Illinois State Police. We currently have, we're going to hopefully have 30 real soon, but we have 29 right now that are volunteer chaplains for the state police. And they're very, very involved, and that helps me as well. Knowing that we have chaplains out there that care for state police that may not know how to funnel the responsibilities of the job or the things that we have to endure on our job, that we do have an agency that believe in chaplains, and we also have peer support where we have those programs or people that are there that are talk us through things that are maybe difficult in life. So I happen to be the coordinator for that program, and I'm very happy with doing that job as well.
Do you have anything that you think that people who might just meet you on the street would be useful for them to know about you as a state trooper, as a homicide detective?
Yes. Ask me that question one more time.
Is there something that you think that someone on the street would be
Okay.
useful for them to know about?
Yes. That I am human. And that may be a broad answer, but to know that as a police officer, they may look at our SWAT guys, and they may see the gear that they carry when they're doing their job. They may look at the uniformed trooper that is 100% professional, that is there and handling their responsibilities as a trooper. But remember that those individuals are human beings, and that they have feelings, that they have families, that they make mistakes. I think if I wanted the public to know me outside of work, know that I'm human. I love playing basketball, things like that. Love spending time with family. All those things. Just remember that police officers are humans, and we're one of you. I mean, we're the same. I just wear a uniform. That would be the main thing I would want a person to remember.
Do you have anything else?
No.
Just kind of as a wrap up, you talked about having children, and you talked about being involved in the community and making a difference in the community. With your children, do you see yourself as providing that sense to them of a bigger picture? How can what I do make a difference, and now how can what you do make a difference? Do you feel like there's a bigger picture here that you're providing for the next generation?
When you say my children, or are you just talking about children in general?
You're specifically, let's make this about you and your family. Do you feel like this is something, do you feel like what you do makes a difference, and do you feel like you're providing those tools to your kids as well?
Yes. So my oldest girl is 17. And my middle girl, she's 13. Then I have a son. He'll be 10 actually this weekend. So 2 girls and a boy. And I believe since I've been doing investigative work, so they know, what I do, and they know how important it is. As far as them knowing that my job, what I do makes a difference in the community. There are times when if we do like a giveaway at least once a year, sometime more than that, but at least around November or December, we give food or clothing or bikes, or we give something away in mainly the East St. Louis area to a family or shelter or something like that. And my kids see what we're putting into that, as far as it's all volunteer and it's all money coming from, even before they have their Christmas, daddy's giving money to something else. And they also are active in the church. So they see that how involved their mom and myself are active in the church. So I would hope and pray that they do see the bigger picture, and they see that, this what I do is a job, but see the service part of it and see that it's bigger than just a job. And I believe they do. You know, my son is the most interesting person to me because he's a boy, and my oldest girl, she's going to be an attorney, a corporate attorney. So I'm looking forward to that. Middle girl, I don't know what she's going to do.
Do you have an Illinois State Trooper in the brood?
I don't know.
Future?
I don't know. I don't know. My son, he's like I said, he's 10 years old, so he's saying he want to be a police officer one day, and next day he may be saying something different. So we will see. We will see. That is to be continued. So I'm Elbert Jennings, and there's your peek from under the peak.